Hello, Cindy Olin here with Create Your Own Luck and Love, and welcome to our next guest on Level Up Your Love Life. Today we are breaking through dismantling blocks so that you are open to receiving the extraordinary love that you're so worthy of. It's your birthright. And I'm so excited to have my conversation today with Kate Houston, fearless and free dating.
Yay! Hello, everybody. I'm so excited to be here. What a wonderful gift you are giving in this series, supporting us, busting open our hearts and being ready for love. It's spring. Aren't we all ready?
Yes, right. I know, it's great. So I'm going to start with sharing just a little bit about Kate and who she is. Kate usually works with women who are successful in business, yet anxious in love. Women, many women, they're tired of feeling frustrated, fed up with dating and love, and deep down just want to feel vibrant, fun, free, and, with an amazing man. So, part of our work today is, Kate is definitely going to guide us through that. Yeah. And we're going to talk about from, frustrated and fed up with dating to feeling vibrant and free in love. Who doesn't want to feel that way? And you're right, it's spring. Easter is tomorrow. This year is just, moving like a freight train. So let's go ahead and dive in. So I know we're going to do a process, but I want to, and we were talking about this, as we were doing our pre-talk too, about, what about a man list gets in a woman's way for finding love. And, I think that can be, counterintuitive a lot of times, and what might she do instead?
Yeah, well, what's really interesting is that the fearless and free mindset, it's within us. We have so many things we get frustrated with. I'm sure you hear it. I'm sure people viewing today get it. They've been, this is so hard. Why am I not seeing the men I want to see? Or I'm just tired of this. Or there's just a wariness, right? So when we get to step into a space of, we really can shift that ourselves. It's within us about our attitudes. Now, I know we've maybe said that before, or you've heard that before, but there's specific methods and tools to help you shift that so you can make that happen incrementally, so you don't have to feel like it's this big weight. So some of the things that I suggest is how, one of the things I know women desire after so many conversations with women is they want clarity and consistency.
Mm-hmm.
Those things,
consistency from men.
Yes, they want that from the man, right? They want that from the man. And here's the thing. You might feel like that's a helpless situation, but no, we can tee up conversations. We can guide without leading to drop the virtual handkerchief, I like to call it.
Mm-hmm. I like to say that too.
I love it. It's just like, we got to give some cues because men are nervous. They don't want to fail. They don't want to be, rejected either. Mm-hmm. And so giving some small cues can do that. And so when we show up from a different mindset, we can actually do that. So like one of the things that I often share with women, and the biggest, I don't know if you hear this too, maybe everybody on the online apps are saying, we're in endless circles of conversations. How do we shift that? How do we shift that? Well, there's ways to incite that and inspire that from anything from maybe you're ready for the conversation on the phone. They don't know if you want to Zoom. They don't know if you want to face. They don't know if you're ready to walk. They're panicked about whether they don't want to offend you.
So true.
I give them a clue, right?
I feel like so oftentimes too that we can continue the conversation too long online, and then it ends up fizzling out because there's just, the tension, the excitement of actually connecting in person starts to wane. So, so how do you recommend,
Yes.
to transition
Mm.
from the, you know, the back and forth online dating app conversation to, you know, next
Yeah.
step.
First of all, before we even get to that, let's start about the first message that often women, people I work with, come from a state of conclusion to the hey or hi.
Oh,
And then
that's the worst.
they say, oh my gosh, I'm so frustrated. They're already pissed off. You know what? Here's the thing, guys, they probably put out a ton of messages of highs. You know, they don't have that. If you want to be with a man who is successful, motivated, involved in his life, he doesn't have time to spend hours upon hours thoroughly reading every message, writing intricate hellos. I personally don't think anybody would. I mean, you want to say hello and see if there's a start, and then they're going to go, okay, there's a response. Now I get to read their profile. Now I'm and remember what they said. Okay, I think that's okay, and we have to let go of that judgment.
The
Realize
judgment of what it looks like, how they're initiating contact,
yeah,
contact's been made, and then, you know, there's a next step
yeah,
there. And, you know, if they continue to be like, fine, okay, then
yeah. We gotta get
go. Yeah.
But you can ask open-ended questions too. It's a mutuality. You don't want a relationship where a guy is leading everything. I mean, you want him to have masculine energy, yes, but you want a partnership. So if they're saying hey or hi or, you know, cute smile or something, you get to have that opportunity to say, you know, thank you for the compliment, it feels good, or something like that. And then say something like, you know, simple as, what lit you up this week? Or what's the best thing to happen to you this last week? And then it's an open-ended question, and usually they'll share something. Then you can banter. They might say, "How about you?" And there are times when you can begin the flirt. Now, a flirt is a present. I think people get too caught up in the meaning, or that it has to, you know, anchor you into a certain direction, but it's just a moment. And when we relax into that and say, you know, if somebody says, hey, how about you? You can say, better now that I'm talking to you. Why not just flirt back and have a little fun, lighten it up? You can then answer the question, and then they know, they're like, oh, there's some interest. Now, you may banter back and forth, and you're at the point of wanting a conversation. You're ready for a phone call. You want to hear his voice. You want to see his face, whatever. You know, you could get to a point of bantering, and if they ask you a question about something that is a bigger story, you can just say, wow, you know, that's great, but it's much more exciting to share that not via text, period. If a man is interested, they'll say, well, do you want to hop on the phone then? That was the guide without leading. Or saying, it would feel good to hear your voice. What do you think? And you ask them the question. You ask the question at the end, because then it's a call to action for him. Men like that. If you just say, it'd be good to hear your voice, you're leaving it kind of out there. We don't know, right? So when you ask the question, they're going to respond, oh yeah, let's pop on a call. When are you available? And so when I say women want consistency and clarity, this is where we get to create clarity with some guiding in our feminine. So that if we say, what do you think? If we know we ask them a question, they're going to respond. When we leave it kind of out there, they might be sitting in that too, thinking, I don't know, am I supposed to, I don't know. You know, we get to invite in what we desire. And the other thing too is if there's, you know, like, yes, let's jump on the phone, and then it's just sort of left like that, you can be more playful and say something like, well, how do you suggest we do that?
Like, what did you have in mind?
I'm not sure what to do now. And it's more fun rather than being upset in the background of like, oh, why isn't he asking me for, you know, what's the times? Or to say, you know, and then he'll say, oh, when are you free? And then you give him a specific window of time. Like, I'm available tonight between 5 and 7, somewhere in there, or tomorrow between, you know, 6 and 6:30 or whatever you want to make it. And then you say, what do you think? You could literally ask that 1,000 times. It's a call to action. And then they'll set the time up. And then you get to say, great. You know, maybe you don't. And if a guy gives you his phone number, I know women freak out about this too, right? What to do with this?
Yeah, he gave me his number. I'm not supposed to call him. Or, you know, like, I've been guided.
They just don't know. They don't know. So all you need to do is say, you could just ignore that, knowing that that's just a acknowledgement that they're wanting to talk to you. And if you desire it, you could say, well, how about on Zoom if you feel like that's best? Or I'd prefer to be on, if you don't want to give your phone number out, and then they'll set it up, right? Or if you're okay with giving a phone number, everybody has a different comfort level. You could just give your phone number and say, I look forward to your call at that time, that is teeing him up to succeed at being the caller to you without leading.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how you get clarity. You give him your phone number, he give you his phone number. We don't know who's calling each other. Anxiety, the stories start spinning in our heads. We go down a shame spiral of, I don't know what's going on. Clarity and consistency. You can set it up and tee it up for a man to support you and he wants to do that. He just doesn't know how.
Yeah. Men we get to set them up to win, and they want to win with you. And we can overcomplicate it by being, women, oftentimes I see it, they overcomplicate it by being in their head. And it's like, yeah, just taking those couple of simple little steps to open them up.
Yeah.
So
I think the winning is so important, and there are things women I think, well, they should just know this. Well, they don't know you. So even if women in general, tens of thousands of women would like this, assume they don't know. So when they call on time, if you say 6, you appreciate somebody punctual, say, wow, I love that you called me at 6. I find men who are on, who respect time attractive.
Yep.
Then you're immediately telling them what you like, and they're like, I can win it that next time. Okay, I'll do that again.
Exactly. And it's like, approaching it from a place of curiosity, yes, and love. So how does that make a difference?
Yes. Well, curiosity for sure. Curiosity is expansive. It's open. It's non-judgmental. It is without expectation. I'm going to say that again, ladies. It's without expectation. And that's really hard when we're excited.
Yeah.
Not expectation.
Hook from that, from that expectation of, and usually the expectation comes from, a story or preconceived notion that it should look like X, Y, Z,
yeah.
So,
yeah, I think the curiosity is we come from one or two places, a state of conclusion or a state of curiosity. I also say that a state of conclusion is our protection. Mm-hmm. I'm not saying it's wrong. It came from a very important place that tried to protect us. Maybe it's the stories and the way we learned to take care of ourselves and coping skills from childhood on that we just never up-leveled. And then it's running our lives now and not getting us what we want. And it's keeping the doors closed, our defenses up. And it's often grounded from a place of fear, of, right, or danger place, versus state of curiosity is from a place of love, of intrigue, of wonder, of childlike awe. And I don't mean childlike in an immaturity, but in that delight and openness that when you have a wide-eyed child who is unaffected by the negative things that people experience. And you can bring that back. And in fact, there's beauty in men seeing that in women. There's a confidence in that, to be vulnerable and show that sudden delight and show emotion around that, whether you're laughing at art or some other thing that happens in a genuine way. It's that thing that they want to have connection with that they've lost probably in the very 9-to-5 world or whatever is our fast-paced lives. So when we give them that chance to be youthful again, well, that's what they like about the youthfulness of women. It's not the age, it's an attitude. Mm-hmm. And that's what they want to lean into and experience with you. So that curiosity is super important. And it also allows you to be free to not judge, and allows you to pay attention to the things that show up, even if it's something, if a man is not what you're interested in. If you're on the date and he's maybe not a match, but you get to recognize the things you do like, to say, wow, he's really open-hearted. wow, look how vulnerable he is when I've asked him a question. He just has not had an issue with sharing. Wow, he has a vision for his life, but even though it doesn't match my vision, look what amazement that is. He has a goal and a vision and wants a partner in that. And so you get to see the positives you've drawn to you, so that even if it's not the right person, you get to acknowledge that law of attraction wise, you're elevating the type of man you're drawing to you, right?
Yeah.
And
So
dating's the best learning grounds ever, right?
absolutely. I mean, dating is, it gives you an opportunity for growth and connection and, creating new insights and fun. I think, you know, dating can really be so much fun when you're approaching it from exactly what you described, just seeing the gifts in this person in front of you and acknowledging yourself in the process. Oh wow, I've, even if this isn't the an alignment for me as far as a match, you just never know, as far as maybe you guys become great friends, or I say this to my clients all the time: just unhook from the unhook from all that list and really just date from a place of growth and curiosity and connection and having fun in the process. And it even makes it easier to actually get a date. Like I've had women that have come to me and said, oh, you talk about getting going on dates, I can't even get a date. Well, there's usually something inside that I'll be an expectation or
that conclusionary protection defense that's just been there. Yeah. I love what you said too about you said about the list, like throw away the list. Because here's the thing with that. You get sometimes you might only get what you ask for. And the universe may have something greater planned for you, and your limitations on how you visualize what you're seeing as possible for you may be much smaller than the universe is ready to provide for you. So this is what I say too, because there's some examples about how to drop the list. And this is one of the things that we'll talk about a little bit more in detail, like to give them a little, so those are too concrete in the sense of it's limiting, right? There's a little constriction with some of that. I mean, yes, we have deal breakers. You want children, you don't want children. Yes. Or if your faith is a specific importance to you, yes, we get that. Deal breakers are not supposed to be, they're preferences, they're your life vision, right? So what I support women in doing is creating their love vision and getting really clear on their 3 core love values and their umbrella values for other things. And everybody's different. And there's a modality and process that I walk women through to start with to get this clarity. And I'll explain why this matters with an example too, is for some women, it might be humor. Humor is really important. Now, if you have humor as an umbrella, it means they handle stress well. They handle upset well. They can converse well when they're angry. All those things might come underneath humor, right?
So that's interesting. I do a little umbrella exercise that's a little similar but different. But in the sense, like, what does humor mean to you? How does that manifest itself? They're
really clear on the definitions, because everybody's definition about why that's important. They might have something about, let me think of another one that's really great. So like integrity, right? Being their word. So that could be they're on time. Or if they're not on time, they'll let you know, because that's, again, clarity and consistency. Do you see how it's kind of hidden underneath these core values? It's so awesome. So you might have 3, but so I have a long list, and there's many lists beyond what my list has probably that is usually a jumping off point and gets women going. And then they get down to their core love values. Now they start listening to conversations on the phone, in texts, on first dates, walking dates, or dinner dates, or whatever they have, listening for their core values. Now, that's important because how we live our core values is very different individually. And this is a great example. So I remember a client who, once we did this, she was having some conversations with people online, met a guy who was an insurance salesman. Oh, that's a story. She's like, oh my God, he must be boring, right? That's the first, she jumped to conclusion.
Right, right. So he must be boring, or maybe he's cheesy, or, whatever her story was.
Well, how boring, how stale, how whatever. And then she said, no, wait, I'm following what Kate's recommending. Let's get curious, and had some conversations and asked him to share stories, which is the other thing. Instead of, job interview questions, ask open-ended questions to get life stories, because that's more of an exchange of who you are and how your way of being is and how they handle things. And men are so vulnerable if we listen and allow them to talk to us about the stories of their lives rather than the interview, list of things to ask. So this man opened up to her about this, and she was listening, and he said, well, I got married out of college, I had a wife, she got pregnant, decided I needed a solid job to provide for the family. She loved that, of course. It means he's a provider. He said, then I had flexibility as the kids were getting older. I could be the soccer dad, I could be the baseball dad. Who doesn't want an involved parent, right? Then as my kids got older, my wife wanted to go back to work so I could be home with the kids, supporting the wife, wanting to do, that was the story. And then we broke up. So what she learned was all these valuable qualities that fit under the umbrella core values, but had she judged based on the label, he would have been already, out the door before she even met him.
Yeah, she might not have even met him.
Yeah. And then her heart was touched because she realized that's not how I would have lived my values out, but wow, they align. And you're looking for alignments. So that's one of the best ways to approach this, is to truly look for the alignments and hear the different ways people have lived their lives to meet those alignments with their core values. So good.
So when you mentioned something about asking open-ended questions. And I think sometimes when women are on a date or, getting ready to go to the date, they're like, how do I ask an open-ended question? What would be a good example of that?
Oh, I mean, just simple things like, so tell me, what's one of your favorite stories about growing up? So this is where you'll probably find out if they're the firstborn, middleborn, lastborn, if what role they played in the family. Were they the helper? Were they the leader? What kind of dynamics with parents? And you can do follow-up questions like, oh, so you got along well with your parents, your mom and your dad? You want to know that, right? I want to know if a man's gotten along with mom or loves mom, or if they had a rocky road. One of the best things to say is like, I had a hard time with my mom. We didn't really connect when I was growing up. A great follow-up question is, wow, that must have been hard. Empathy, true empathy, right? And then say, how did you work that out? Or have you resolved that? And guys will actually tell you, yeah, you know what, we're in a better state now, or no, I can never talk to her again, or I made peace with that. Nobody's going to be a perfect, they've lived life, they've had bumps, and we want to know how they've handled that, how they've resolved that, how they've done the work to heal.
Yeah, rather than going into conclusion, right? But being in that curious space. And
guess what? I have bumps and lots of stuff that if you just told the stories, it could scare people away, right? We all have those. I don't get to tell my resilience story, my hero story in it, that, well, look what I did. This is how I came through it. And you want to hear accountability. About their part. Like, you know what? I wasn't my best self all the time. I didn't know what I didn't know. Now I know better. And now I know the things I don't want to repeat. That's what you want to hear versus, yeah, I don't know why. She's just kind of crazy. That's not taking responsibility. That's still in the pain. And we don't want to connect through pain stories.
Amen to that. Yeah, I was just about to say, what are some examples of things that you want to steer clear from?
Yes.
I mentioned to my clients too, if somebody's in their victim story or, doesn't, a lot of times it's like, people have had exes and, it's how do they talk about their ex and do they take responsibility for their part? Because we all have a part and things not working out. It's really then, being able to be brave and see that.
And I believe too, if anybody viewing today still has activation or ongoing struggles or challenges or friction with your ex or your unresolved feelings, that's a stop block from you finding love again. There's an opportunity to work through that and heal, because it's just repeating the heartbreak pattern. We stay stuck in this cycle. And I've had, and it's okay. Like it's a natural thing to kind of have happen. So I wouldn't say beat yourself up, but recognize it, recognize it, that you have an opportunity to step into healing, forgiving for yourself, not necessarily for them, and letting go so you can make space to lean into love again.
Yeah, that's powerful. What would you say, to the watchers and listeners today about, what would be, first step, or, first two steps they can take to start to really unhook from that place and step into their healing, which I find, is so empowering.
Yes. Well, I definitely have courageous and free dating principles and courageous and free love principles that support you being fearless and free, vibrant and excited about dating versus frustrated and fed up. They're guidelines that if you take them on and try them on and ride them around with, can really support you in having clarity and grounding. You can give yourself that. So one of them is it's never about you. Unless it's about you. Unless it's about you. So here's the thing, is that when one finger is pointing out, three are pointing back. The idea is, if we all understand when we're activated, whether you use the word triggered or upset or whatever, it's because something is remembering a past hurt. Mm-hmm. It's really not about that
moment.
Never
about that moment, yes.
It's never really about that person. I mean, they're just being themselves. They don't know they're upsetting you, right? Or the level it might upset you. It's an opportunity to go, okay, wow, that's not about me. And if somebody else on the other end maybe doesn't have that awareness to know it's really about me, and they're youing you, we've all had the you conversations in our past. No, it's not about you. However, listen for the grain of truth, because there may be an unskillful way that they're trying to share that they're scared about something, especially if you're in dating. People don't always have the best communication. So if we just separate from taking it personally and let it wound us, and we listen for, wow, I think something didn't land with what I was sharing. Something I said bothered them too. It's not my responsibility to wholly take care of their feelings, but I cannot learn and acknowledge how maybe I could say something differently to support them or be more loving, or realize that I didn't know this could cause upset. And the same thing with you. Like, if something really upsets you, like, wow, you're like, I don't know why I'm upset. I want to walk away. All I want to do is run, but I'm going to walk around the block. I'll come back.
Right. And taking those few deep breaths.
Yeah.
And asking yourself questions like, what is it that happened? And what am I making this mean?
Yeah.
That can, start to open up the, the spotlight on what it really is.
Yes. Yeah. And it gives us that opportunity just to get honest and courageous with ourselves. And first and foremost, you need to have courageous conversations with the shadow. I definitely had a hard time back in the day before I was really doing the work. I want to be a good little girl, had it all together, all that stuff, superwoman. Right. Didn't want to see my shadow, didn't want to see my humaneness, and then I mess up sometimes. But when I was able to acknowledge that and love on that side of me, there was less power in the pain around all that. I just get to acknowledge it and say, yeah, this wasn't my best day. You're right. Human. Getting to that point was a lot of work, right? When we've been superhuman our whole lives.
Yeah, it's like, I'm human. I'm not perfect. And nobody wants a perfect person. They want to, they want to see who you are, what's beyond the exterior, what's beyond those, those accomplishments, or who you are. It's that place.
Yeah. And men fall in love with us, with women. This is a secret that I think is really important for everybody here. If you get nothing else from this interview, this is critical. Men fall in love with women by how they treat themselves, not how they treat the man. And so if you are in a responsible conversation of your feelings, that's you honoring integrity in you, being responsible for you, and how you hold that without blame or shame or guilt on you or somebody else. That's attractive. That's the mystery and the magic that when men say like, well, what is that essence? I don't know what it is. Because women often think they're going to love me more the more I love them, the more I do for them, the less I do for me, then I lose myself, and then they wonder why they lost the man. It's because men fall in love with your uniqueness, and when you're not in touch with that and you give it all up to be all about them, they don't know what to love anymore.
Yeah, well, they don't really know who you are. You're a being, and that, biologically, because we are nurturers by nature, we can easily fall into that role, which, as you know, Kate, I mean, we're speaking the same language here. It neutralizes attraction.
Yeah.
And they don't, and it's also like, I've talked to so many women, I know you have too, that will say, I got I got activated or triggered, and I thought this would make him really care about me more if I, another expert was talking about, do his laundry, or just start planning, and basically being the man in the relationship, and fully taking over. And you shared something early on that I feel is super powerful, is you can easily suggest, because as women, we're the emotional leaders in the relationship, and also the communication leaders. So you can, and I always say this, we lead from behind. So you can easily suggest, oh wow, doesn't Thai food sound so yummy right now? You're not saying, let's go to Thai food tonight, or sushi or whatever you're into. You're saying, oh man, that sounds so yummy. Doesn't that sound yummy? And and men, then it sets them up to win. Well, she really wants Thai food, but Thai food makes him sick. Maybe, oh, I don't know. But then it doesn't mean he's making it, it's not about you. He's not shooting it. It's not that he doesn't want to make you happy. And you're going to be like, oh, okay. So, oh man, do you like sushi? I like sushi. I don't know, and you're sparking the conversation rather than feeling like, oh, I've got to make all the plans. It's all about what, he puts it on me. But really, no, he just wants to be set up to win you.
And I think critical here too is if anybody was like me, and that my value for a long time I found was from my doing. A lot of anxiously run relationships come from that, versus being. Just you standing there being you is enough. And when we've been doers, it's so hard to believe. But literally, you can be walking on a date. Maybe it's been a little longer. The coffee date went longer than it's fun. And you make statements rather than your mind spinning of how am I going to get him to ask me to do blah, 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 all this stuff going on in my head about how do I get him to do something. It's much simpler. You can just be like walking, holding his arm, going, wow, I'm really hungry. It's a statement. And then he has an opportunity to say, well, do you have time to have lunch, or can we go grab a bite? I love that. Like, simple.
Right. It's like the simple little things. And sometimes I get it, ladies. Might get stuck in the moment, but once you practice that, oh, I'm feeling hungry. Or have you, what's your favorite kind of food? Are you into Thai food? I must be craving Thai food.
I love it.
So I need to find a good Thai food.
And I love too that, like, when you ask these types of things, it's so much simpler on you to be present in your senses. And I like to say in your pleasures, because your senses are what feels good right now. Or like you can say, wow, I'm feeling cold. He might offer a coat. He might offer, let's go inside. Like, let him have some opportunity to devise something for you. And that's winning. They're winning, making you happy, little things. And it's the other thing, I like what you were saying is like the lead, like where you're guiding from behind is really, I like to think of as a dance. Men lead in the dance. They very much have the form. They have your hand. They got your back literally with where they're directing you. Women set the tempo, the speed.
Oh yeah. And and it's a good point that you brought that up. We do set the tempo and the speed through the dance. And a lot of times I think women will go into this place when a man is leading, and he might be leading really fast. He might be trying to take that dance really fast. And that's not the pace that you're ready for. Right. And this is a really, really important point, is to take it a little slower than maybe what he might want to take it. Yeah. Because then it's like you're savoring it. We can oftentimes, because we live in, let's face it, more of an instant gratification world. So it's like, oh, let's race to the finish line. But realistically, it's so much better when you savor things along the journey and take the time to explore, getting to know one another, so it doesn't end up into, so I meet you on a Friday, and then next thing you know, we spend every single day together. It's, that goes fast and furious and ends the same, which, can then move into, patterns. And
I love this too, because we're back to clarity and consistency and how you can create it for part of this experience. Before you're on a date, maybe it's your third or fourth date, maybe you've had a little kiss, maybe there's a possibility, we don't know, maybe sparks are flying, you're feeling the energy. Before you even meet up on the date, you make a decision about what you will and will not do. This is you keeping integrity and building your own self-trust. Mm-hmm. It could be, all I want is Olympic makeout. I'm okay with Olympic qualifying makeout. I like to call it that. Like, hours of makeout would be great, which you get to decide what that means. What's the touching? Arms? Is it touching anything on the top? Nothing below? You decide very clearly where your line is. Because you give in to your own integrity breach, you're teaching a man that it's okay. We're showing them what is the right.
Even if he doesn't know that,
he just
energetically, he feels it.
Yeah.
Because men pick up on our energy so easily. It's kind of like, if you're frustrated, or you've had a moment, and what happens with you, that energy. If you're tense, well, other people are going to feel tense around you. So it's that same thing. It's like, making sure that you've drawn that boundary with yourself, so that then you're creating that boundary with him. And if he continues to try to push the boundary, that's where you draw the next line in the sand and say, hey, look, I'm not ready for this. And if that's not where you're at, I totally get it. And I get to, maybe we should perhaps we should end the date.
And you get to see if he's responsive to respect you, or if he's offensive or, indignant about it, because that tells you who he is, how he is, and what he wants, what he doesn't want, and whether that's an alignment for you. So when we show up in integrity for ourselves, so like, let's say you have a phone call, you say, I have 45 minutes for the phone call. Phone call is going great. Guess what? 45 minutes is hitting. You have an opportunity to stay in integrity with yourself and teach him that you're a woman of integrity by saying, I got to actually pop off the phone. I'd love to converse later, rather than I'm going to give in and talk another half hour.
Yeah. I love that you brought that point up, because I oftentimes will say to my clients, when you're transitioning into that first phone call, I will say, well, yeah, like, if, we can, is a quick, 10-minute phone call. What do you think about that? And sometimes, a lot of times it will inspire a man to get on a phone call quicker, because then they're like, oh, I'm not going to be on the phone for 30, 45
minutes. Like, if it sucks, I'm off soon. That's what they're worried about, right? They're like, how do I get off? How many of us have been on the phone and didn't know how to get off the call?
I think we've all been there at one point in time or the other, because especially as women, we feel that, oh, I don't want to make him feel bad, or it's none of that. Well, that's
you're not in charge of his feelings, ladies.
Yeah, you are not in charge. You are not in charge of his feelings.
You're in charge of yours.
That starts a whole different conversation.
I know there's a whole lot of lessons around that, right? And because I'm recovering from taking care of other people's feelings. I've done that plenty.
It's also saying, well, their feelings are more important than yours.
Yeah.
If you're that, granted, we want to be concerned and respectful
Yeah.
of other people, but it's that, when you hop on that quick 10-minute phone call, I always tell my clients the same thing. It's then make sure that you're respecting that time.
Yeah.
And you say, oh, look, gosh, I want to respect your time. And, of course, my time, this has been so lovely. And I would definitely say yes if you were to,
That's where you get that guiding again. It's like, yeah, wow, there's so much we could talk about more on another call.
Mm-hmm.
That's like letting him know, hey, ask, she's open to that. So good. So
right,
good.
Right. It's, there's so much we could say.
No, right?
So as far as, a woman with standards, of course, she attracts quality men. Let's dive into that. Like, what would that look like, for example?
Attracting quality men?
Yeah. So, you say a woman with standards.
Yeah.
Right?
I love standards versus boundaries, because boundaries has this hard, rigid, defensive feel to it. Standards are your preferences.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And here's the thing, you get to be consistent with your standards for yourself. One of the things with the core love values is you get to identify under that, how do you show up in your core love values? How are you out of integrity with your core values? And how can you be more in alignment?
Mm-hmm.
You're going to draw like
asking the questions.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's so good because, well, we're all human. We probably, I'm out of integrity here. I can see where I'm not always living into like leaning on humor. I get mad about things rather than leaning in levity. Oh, I guess I get to, if I want that, I get to be that. So we get to shift to show up. Or one of the other things is like, if you, if one of your, like, if you are always follow through on your commitments, when you say you're going to be somewhere, you will. Great example. Had a client who was chatting back and forth. They talked, we're going to meet, for coffee. And as she's parking the car, literally 10 minutes before meeting, she was finding her spot. She looked on the app to see, look what he looked like again. And they weren't matched anymore. So somebody could just go, did he leave me? They could make up all the stories. We had no idea.
Yeah.
But because we talked about being integrity with your commitments, she's like, you know what? I don't know. I know I've swiped accidentally before. Things have happened. I'm going to show up, be there for 10 or 15 minutes. If he doesn't show, so be it. But I don't know. Maybe things happen.
Sure.
So she sat there. She didn't get upset. She didn't get mad because she knew she was in integrity with herself.
Mm-hmm.
And she didn't wait forever, but about 10 or 15 minutes. And then she realized, wow, he did unmatch. I like to say unmatched because it's neutral. We don't know why. I don't like saying ghosted because we're really judging ourselves.
Yeah. Yeah.
And going to an old belief or limiting belief that's holding on rather than, okay. And then you can be grateful. Like, wow, he decided we were to match. I didn't have to waste more than 15 minutes of just hanging out here, looking at all the pretty lights in this cafe. Now I get to go do something else. Like, great.
Yeah.
I didn't waste 3 years of my life, whatever. Like it's.
Yeah. It's just, and instead of creating a story about it, making it about you, it's like, we don't know what happened with that individual, and so be it. And I always just say that those little moments create the opening of you staying in integrity with yourself, looking at the blessing or the silver lining within it, the gift, right? And then continuing to move forward. I promise you will bring in your man with that attitude, because it will, it's like a ripple effect all over your life, which is awesome.
And when you come from a real place of abundance, like you're embodying it, your cells own it, not just thinking it up here, but you've embodied it in your heart and soul. Then it's like, oh, you don't even think about it when people come and go or unmatch or whatever. You might be like, wow, I thought that conversation went well. Oh, well, I'm not the one. He's not the one. Great. Make space for someone else. It gets to be simple versus judgment, why, what, spinny, spirally conversations in your head.
Yeah. For sure, for sure. Well, I could talk to you forever.
I know, it's so good.
So I know that you have a free gift for our watchers out
Yes.
there. Would you care to share?
I would love, it's called the Fearless and Free Dating Mindset Master Course. It's a 5-part audio course. And I had decided for you, Cindy, in this group, it's usually a course that I have as a product that I sell, but it's spring, we're coming out of pandemic, and I've just decided to bust it out and give it away for free in
Wow.
this free gift for your community. What it will do is help you stop critiquing and start connecting with men and dates so you can see the real man behind the face, the stories, and understand who he is and get a chance to find love even as we're coming out of these pandemic times. You'll find out, like, this is the opportunity. I give you the full sheet of how to figure out your love vision and love values, your core love values, and how you're in and out of integrity, some questions to have you really dig deep into that. There's worksheets for each and every one of these courses. You get to identify how to avoid the wounded birds and find the impact, the healed warriors and what that looks like. How to truly be yourself, the questions to ask to bring out those stories, that it feels more like a dialogue with a man. And literally every woman that uses these, they say men come out of that day going, wow, that was a conversation. It was so fun. And they're not fearful of it being a job interview, right? And they get to bring the magic and joy and delight back, where you're letting go of the frustration, you're bringing in freedom and vibrancy in your dates, and getting curious and getting connected, which is really what we all desire. And all of this is going to be available. It'll come to your email inbox every single day. You complete one of the modules, the next will come to you, and it's available to you. I'm sure you have a link somewhere.
We've got the link set up, and you'll be receiving an email with the link if you signed up for the series. So
yes.
Awesome. Thank you again so much, Kate. This was a blast, and what a generous gift and offering for these women.
I'm ready for people to bust into transformation and get out there and be ready to meet their man and make their love vision and life vision reality.
Absolutely. Yay. All right. Well, here's to everyone that's showing up for themselves and really committed to leveling up their love life. And, from my heart to yours, I will see you in a few short minutes on the next interview. Bye, everyone.